All right. Hi, Linda. It's nice to see you again.
Hey Doug, how have you been?
I've been good. How have you been since our last session?
Um, Not bad, but I've been looking forward to talking to you about a couple things.
Good. So what brings you in today? What's on your mind?
Well, I know you and I have talked before about my work situation. And so, just kind of to recap and refresh your memory, I've been working in this field for a long time. And usually, when you reach a certain retirement age, they hint that they really would like for you to retire. And I've reached that point. So I really, most of my friends are coworkers, so I wasn't comfortable talking to them about this. And I think I've told you before, my husband retired quite a few years ago, and he's thrilled about being retired and about me being retired, but I'm not thrilled about it.
Yeah, I remember when we talked last, excuse me, they had encouraged you to retire years ago and you kind of stuck through it. And so this is kind of a revisit of the past, I think. Um, so what are your concerns about retiring?
I'm, I really don't know what I'm going to do with my day. Um, it's not really a money concern, although it would be nice to maybe supplement and do something. But you can only clean house and reorganize closets so long, and I think I'm going to be really, really bored.
Yeah, it does sound like it's a lot. I know for a lot of people that I've worked with, that change of career going into retirement can be very stressful trying to figure out what the next stage is going to look like for you. So,
Yeah.
what are some things that you've thought about maybe doing?
Well, I probably will take some time and not do much of anything. Um, because I mean, things like cleaning the garage and stuff like that needs to be done. And I've told you about that problem in the past. So, I'll spend some time doing things like that, but I just don't know. I don't know if I want to do volunteer work or get back into some of my hobbies having to do with art and music, or if I want to maybe start a consulting company or something so that I feel useful. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely, that makes sense. I think for a lot of people, they've spent a lot of their career doing one thing, and going into the next stage can feel scary in some ways. Um, so it sounds like there's some apprehension, some fears, some concerns that you've got going on. Is that about right?
Yeah, I'm just kind of feeling lost about the whole thing. And if it had been my idea, I probably would feel differently, but this wasn't my idea.
Sure. So one of the things that you talked about was getting into some volunteering. What sort of things do you think you could lean into in that area?
Well, we've talked about my love of art, maybe volunteering down at the Cincinnati Art Museum. That's one thing I've thought about. I'm not good enough to give art lessons or anything like that, so it would, that's something that I might want to do. Um, and I could I could see volunteering at an animal shelter or something like that, but I'm scared to death I'd want to bring everything home with me.
Yeah, I feel the same way about animals. They're my dogs are my favorite people. So
Okay, I get it.
I understand that. Um, One of the other things that you mentioned in there was maybe doing some side consulting work. What sort of things do you think you could get into doing that?
Well, I've been in automotive my whole life, process consulting, customer satisfaction, um, trying to figure out just helping people make the experience for whoever they are serving better, if that makes sense.
No, that absolutely does make sense. So just some things that come to mind for me. Maybe you could look into some of these volunteer options. I know you said you've got a dog and that sometimes the dog gets boarded when you go on vacation. Maybe you could
Right.
do some volunteer work there. You could look into seeing if they need any help. One of the other
A good
things
idea.
that one of the other things that you mentioned would be the Cincinnati Art Museum. Maybe taking a trip down there and talking to their information department, seeing if there's any volunteer positions available and what that would entail as far as training and time on your end. One of the other
You
things
know,
that
I've never,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I've never really done too much volunteer work other than I'm a community first responder in our county. We don't do a lot with that, but I might be able to get into that a little bit more too.
Yeah, and I know that that was something that I think you and your husband did together as well. So I
Right.
know with him already being retired, it would be good if you guys could do some things together. I know that you've talked about doing some traveling and you mentioned just wanting to take a little bit of time off, maybe a few months, and just sort of see how retirement feels. Um, I know you have a sister out on the East Coast, maybe going and taking a trip out and visiting her and spending some time with her, because I think she was getting close to retirement too, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're right. She's going to be retiring probably before I do. She's going to retire at the end of January, which is just a couple months away. I'm probably going to work through February or March, but I want to get a game plan together.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I recommend to a lot of the clients that I work with is to do some journaling. So maybe between now and our next session, that can be your homework, for lack of a better term. Is to maybe get some pros and cons lists together. Maybe make some lists about the things that would be of interest to you, and then maybe look at making a pros and cons list about what you could do by yourself, what you could do with your sister, what you could do with your husband, and maybe next time we meet, we could go over some of those things and try to come up with that game plan for you. Does that sound okay?
You know, that sounds interesting. I would like to travel. My husband doesn't travel real well anymore because of some medical things, but I never thought of volunteering and doing stuff that I could do with him. So that's something that you just you gave me something to think about.
Good. That's what I'm here for. And so it sounds like there's just a lot of uncertainty going into this next stage. And you're trying to come up with some ideas of ways to keep yourself busy, but also to feel useful. And so those might be some good ways to start looking at some ideas and some options. And next time we get together, we can go over some of those ideas you have.
Okay, I've never really done any journaling, so that will be something new for me to try too.
Yeah, one of the ways that I encourage people to do that is just put pen to paper. Sometimes some music in the background, just some soft music, usually something without lyrics, just so you don't get distracted. I know jazz or classical music is always good for those things, and just see what comes out. Just put pen to paper and give yourself, 10, 20, 30 minutes and just write and see what comes out. And I think that will be a representation of actually how you feel rather than how you think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I never never thought about doing anything like that. So
Good.
thank you.
You're welcome. So, is there anything else that you need from me today before we wrap up our session?
No, I think you've given me some things to think about and some options to explore that I never really thought about. So this has been really helpful.
Well, good. Well, I'm glad I could be of some assistance, and I look forward to seeing you next week in our session.
Okay, Doug, thanks a lot.
You're welcome, Linda. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.